Hey, fam, it's me, Q, coming through. I'm following up on our last conversation about mental cycles. I gave you a little time to actually apply what we spoke about because mental health is actually very important. I know society took mental health out of primary care, but it should be integrated into primary care as a necessity, a requirement, not placed on the a la carte line as optional. The reason is because you cannot allow true healing. A true healing won't take place unless it is done within the mind. No matter how much treatment is sought out or correction within the body, if you don't train the mind to reset, then the body's going to continue to break down. Now, I say this because there's been a stigma placed on mental health. Now, don't get me wrong, everything I do is not about mental health, but there is decency and order in everything. And I'm starting at the root cause, which is the mind. Mental health has been labeled as taboo. It is something that is not spoken of. It is stigmatized because nobody wants to be labeled crazy or needing their mind to be assessed. I don't want to have a label that makes them feel like an outsider within society or a danger, or they don't want to be a target. But everyone's a target. And this came to the forefront during COVID-19 when everyone was quarantined globally, and a mass eruption of mental instability was identified. This is when I first put my best foot forward and submitted my own assessment during COVID-19 pandemic. While everyone else focused on the virus itself, I focused on what the virus caused, what actually emerged when the virus hit. I am an advocate for integrating mental health into primary care because it's holism. You have to become aligned. The mind is the control center, not only for your body, your health, but your ability to achieve wellness and sustain it. It begins and ends with the mind. Yes, that is the greatest treasure, which is why it makes sense that the care for it would be removed and treated like an ugly stepchild. Now, once we went through the mental cycles and we took the step to intervene on these loops of constant thoughts, overthinking, which causes stress and worry and begins to travel through the body and break down the immune system and cause you to become more susceptible to chronic diseases as well as infectious diseases. Once you intervened and you started to break it down to get to the root cause of why these thoughts are constantly looping in your mind, causing you to become stagnant and storing up energy and it becoming anxiety, it should have led you to your childhood. Yes, everything is intentional. That's the root cause. I have discovered that 4 out of 5 people worldwide have experienced what we call adverse childhood experiences, and 3 out of 5 have experienced more than one adverse childhood experience. An adverse childhood experience is something that causes your stress response to trigger, your fight or flight response to trigger, And if it's not shut off with a buffer, which is something that calms you and resets that response, intervenes on that response to make you feel safe, to make you feel covered, then it's prolonged, which means that it's consistently on, which can build up what we call steroids because it's a natural production within our being. And our fight or flight response comes from that system. What that does over time is, again, it starts to break down the immune system and make you more susceptible to chronic disease. So by the time you become an adult, you are more prone to experience chronic diseases of all kinds because you have lived your life in a state of survival. And that has taken effect on your body because our body's not meant to stay in a state of survival, a state where you feel like you have to protect yourself. You feel like you're in a position where your back's against the wall constantly. There's struggle, there's hardship, there's food scarcity, there's poverty, there's income scarcity or lack of income, financial freedom. This is a state that is triggered within the mind when the being is going through things within their environment, within their household, within their friend group, within their job. And it can be triggered at any time. Anytime you feel you've been stressed out or you feel like your back is against the wall or I have to do something or you feel like you have to go get it by all means necessary, that stress response becomes toxic if it's not shut off, and it starts to travel through the body, which is our sensory line, our spine, and into any part of our body, any part. And it'll show itself within the body as a chronic disease, or you're constantly getting infections, or you're sick 3 times out of the year, or you're constantly getting a common cold. That is identifying that our body has been altered. And we shouldn't have to live in that state of mind and that state of being. So again, adverse childhood experiences. This is where it starts. This is where it begins. It can be the smallest thing within your childhood that triggered your stress response, and it was never shut off. You never got an apology. You never had anyone cradle you and nurture you, tell you that everything was okay. You just had to keep going. That stress response kept going too. And over time, it builds up a residue within the mind that starts to travel within the body. It can show up in any way: diabetes, obesity, cancer, mental instability, depression, anxiety. And all the while we're saying we're fine because we've gotten so used to masking or hiding those parts that cause shame, embarrassment, or we just don't want to think about, we want to forget about. We can bury it, but if it's not addressed, trust me, it's shown up in your body. It's shown up somewhere in your life. All that aggression, that anger, the inability to assess emotions properly, the lack of cognitive development, all of this can be caused by adverse childhood experiences. That's where we start. That's the root cause. Until next time, everybody, be beautiful. Thank you.